What happens when The View tries to humiliate Jennifer Lopez, the most polished woman in Hollywood, and she turns the tables live on air? From the first minute Jennifer Lopez sat at that table, the air was different, tighter, heavier, electric. And before the audience even realized what was happening, the interview turned into a showdown. Respect versus ridicule, power versus pride. This wasn't just another interview. It was a collision between ego and endurance, and only one of them was walking away unshaken. Trust me, this talk show won't disappoint you. It'll be worth every second of your time. Jennifer Lopez walked onto the stage of The View calm, confident, and polished to perfection. She greeted the hosts one by one. Whoopi Goldberg gave her a warm nod. Sarah Haynes smiled widely, and Sunny Hostin leaned in with genuine curiosity. But down at the far end of the table sat Joy Behar, chin tilted, arms crossed, lips curved into a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. It wasn't a welcome, it was a warning. Jennifer took her seat, crossing one leg over the other, ready to talk about her new movie. Everything started the way it always does. Small talk, laughter, compliments about her outfit, a few stories about her kids and work. On the surface, it was lighthearted. But underneath, Joy's body language said something else. Stiff shoulders, tapping fingers, a smirk that came and went like static electricity. Then halfway through Jennifer's answer about balancing career and family, Joy leaned forward. She didn't wait for her to finish. Her voice cut through the air like a paper slice, smooth but meant to sting. "Jennifer," she said almost casually, "you've been famous for, 3 decades now?" Jennifer nodded politely, waiting for the question. Joy didn't pause. "But tell me, and be honest, do you think it's been talent or timing?" The audience let out a half laugh, half gasp. Was meant as a joke or an insult? Whoopi looked down at her cue cards, pretending to read. Sarah froze, eyes darting between them. Jennifer's smile stayed on her face, but it tightened. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at Joy for a long moment, studying her, as if she were deciding whether this was still an interview or something else entirely. Then Jennifer leaned back, her tone even, polite and steady. "That's an interesting question, Joy," she said with a soft smile. "Maybe a little bit of both." Joy leaned in, resting her elbows on the table, and gave that trademark smirk that always came right before she said something sharp. Her tone sounded playful, but everyone could hear the blade hiding underneath it. "You know, Jennifer," she began, drawing out each word like she was setting a trap, "you've done really well for someone with such a limited vocal range." The words hit the air like a slap. Whoopi lowered her eyes, pretending to look at her notes. Sarah Haynes blinked twice, her smile faltering just enough to give her away. Everyone at the table knew it. Joy had crossed the line. Jennifer didn't flinch. She didn't shift in her seat or force a nervous laugh. Instead, she just looked at Joy, calm and unbothered, like a woman who'd heard this kind of thing her whole life and learned how to let it roll off her back, until she decided it didn't have to. "Limited," she repeated softly, tilting her head as if she were testing the word in her mouth. Then she smiled, and it wasn't polite anymore. "You're right, Joy," she said evenly. "I'm no Whitney Houston." She paused just long enough for the silence to sting. "But you're no Barbara Walters either." The line hit like thunder. Joy's smile froze in place. The audience gasped, a quick collective inhale. Whoopi leaned back in her chair and muttered under her breath, "Oh, damn." Joy wasn't backing down. If anything, the tension seemed to feed her. She straightened in her chair, that smirk curling back onto her face like armor. "You know, Jennifer," she said, her voice syrupy sweet but cutting underneath, "you're a singer, an actress, a businesswoman, but some would say you're spread a little too thin. Maybe it's time to pick a lane and stay in it." Jennifer blinked, slow and deliberate, then leaned forward slightly. "Stay in my lane?" Jennifer repeated, her tone low but clear. "Joy, remind me, what's yours?" Joy laughed, but it was forced. "Comedy," she said quickly, almost defensive. "I've been doing this since before you could spell your own name." Jennifer's eyes didn't move from her. "Comedy?" she said softly. "When was your last laugh that wasn't canned?" The air in the studio cracked. Sarah looked down at her coffee. Whoopi let out a quiet exhale and muttered, "Oh boy." Jennifer didn't stop there. Her voice grew steadier, sharper, the kind of tone that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. "I built something, Joy," she said. "Albums, films, businesses. Things that reach people. Things that last." She paused just long enough to let it land. "You built bitterness. And the only thing you've hosted longer than this show is resentment." The silence that followed was absolute. Joy's jaw tightened, her knuckles white against the table. For the first time all morning, she didn't have a comeback. Jennifer sat forward now, her tone steady but charged. "You know, Joy," she said, locking eyes with her across the table, "while you were sitting here talking about people, I was out there doing it. I've bled for this career. On stage, in rehearsal, in life." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Every word landed heavy, like truth finally being spoken out loud. "You think this industry handed me anything? I earned it. Every song, every movie, every sleepless night when people like you said I wasn't enough. I turned that noise into fuel. That's how I got here." Joy crossed her arms tightly, her face stiffening. She was trying to look unbothered, but her eyes betrayed her. Sharp, defensive, a flicker of heat under the surface. Then she forced a small, sarcastic laugh. "Sounds like someone rehearsed that speech," she said, trying to regain control. Jennifer didn't blink. "No, Joy," she replied smoothly. "You rehearse excuses. I rehearse excellence." The words hung there like a verdict. The audience didn't clap. They didn't dare. They just sat in a thick, suspended silence, every breath held. Joy opened her mouth as if to fire back, but nothing came. For the first time, she seemed unsure which part of her persona to hide behind, the comedian, the critic, or the host. Jennifer leaned back slowly, her expression soft but unshaken. "The difference between us," she said finally, "is that I fight to build. You fight to tear down." The air was electric. Whoopi shifted in her seat, glancing toward the control booth as if silently begging for a commercial break. But no one moved. No one even blinked. Joy finally sat up, her voice sharp and defensive, trying to claw back some kind of authority. "I ask the tough questions," she said, her tone rising with frustration. "That's called journalism, Jennifer. Maybe you're just not used to people who don't kiss your ass." Jennifer almost laughed, not mockingly, but in disbelief. "Journalism?" she echoed, her eyebrows lifting slightly. "Joy, come on. When was the last time you actually broke a story instead of someone's spirit?" The words landed like a crack in the glass. Small at first, then spreading fast. The audience didn't move. Even Whoopi froze, her lips pressed tight like she wanted to intervene but knew she shouldn't. Jennifer leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a low, even tone. "You sit here every day judging people who take risks, who build, who create, who put themselves out there. Because deep down, you never did." Her delivery was calm, but her words were sharp, precise, almost surgical. "You confuse cruelty with courage," she continued, her eyes never leaving Joy's face. "You think being mean is being brave, that mocking others is honesty. It's not, it's fear. Wearing a microphone." Joy's jaw tightened, her posture shifted. No longer the composed talk show host, but someone cornered and scrambling for control. Her voice came out louder than before, brittle around the edges. "You know what, Jennifer?" she snapped. "You're not real. You're a product. Plastic, polished, PR, every move, every smile, every word. It's all manufactured." The words hung in the air like poison. The other hosts froze. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, as if unsure whether to keep rolling. Then came a sound that cut straight through the silence. The slow scrape of Jennifer's chair sliding back from the table. The metal legs dragged across the studio floor, echoing like a warning. She stood up, calm and deliberate, her face unreadable. "Joy," she said quietly, each syllable measured, almost gentle, but underneath it was steel. "You just made a very big mistake." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The calmness was scarier than anger. Jennifer placed both hands on the table and leaned slightly forward. Her gaze locked on Joy, unflinching. "You want to talk about fake?" she began, her tone low but steady. "What's real is that I came from nothing and built everything. What's real is every sleepless night, every closed door, every no I turned into a career. What's fake," she said, her voice sharpening, "is sitting behind a desk for 20 years pretending to matter by tearing other people down." The room went dead still. You could almost hear the heartbeat of the show itself, waiting to see what would happen next. Joy didn't move. She couldn't. Each word hit like thunder, shaking the air, stripping away the layers of humor, ego, and bravado that usually protected her. Jennifer straightened up slowly, her presence filling the room. "You call me a product," she said. "At least I built something worth selling." "What exactly have you built, Joy? Other than bitterness?" Joy finally snapped, her voice breaking through the silence like glass shattering. "You can't talk to me like that. This is my show," she shouted, the words sharp but trembling, just enough to betray her fear. Jennifer turned slowly, her expression calm, almost pitying. "Your show," she said, her tone soft but lethal. "Joy, this isn't your show. You're a guest with tenure, not a queen with a crown." That single line landed like a punch. Whoopi shifted uncomfortably, glancing toward the control booth. No one moved to cut to commercial. Nobody dared. Jennifer took a slow breath and continued, her voice now even colder. Each word deliberate, precise, impossible to ignore. "You're not the voice of truth, Joy. You're the echo of bitterness. You don't interview. You interrogate. You don't host. You haunt." Joy froze. The smirk that had carried her through countless interviews was gone. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Jennifer didn't stop. She took one step closer, not menacing, but resolute. A woman standing firmly in her power. "When people talk about me," she said quietly, "they talk about my work. When they talk about you, they talk about your attitude." She paused just long enough for the words to sink in. One fades, the other lasts. The air felt heavy, thick enough to touch. Joy's hands trembled slightly on the table, the color draining from her face. The crew stared, frozen behind the cameras, afraid to move, afraid even to blink. Jennifer stood in silence for a beat that felt like forever. The tension had reached its limit, and now it was just quiet, calm. She reached down, grabbed her purse, and stood tall. Her voice was steady, controlled, almost gentle. The kind of calm that only comes when someone's completely done. "You think walking away makes me wrong?" she said, looking right at Joy. "No, it means I'm done wasting breath." Joy's face twisted, her composure cracking in real time. "Security!" she barked, her voice trembling between rage and panic. "Get her off the set." Jennifer didn't even flinch. She turned back once, her tone unshaken. "Honesty isn't abuse, Joy," she said softly. "It's just something you forgot how to handle." Then she turned toward the cameras, her presence suddenly shifting from confrontation to command. Her expression softened, but her words still carried that same unmistakable strength. "To everyone watching," she began, her voice clear and grounded, "don't ever let anyone make you feel small. Don't let anyone decide what you're worth or what you can do. No one's permission is needed to be great. No music, no cue, just the sound of her heels. Sharp, clean, final, as she walked off the set. Each step echoed through the studio, louder than applause, heavier than words. Joy sat frozen, not angry this time, just still. Her hands clenched the edge of the table, but her eyes had changed. There was something behind them now. Not hatred, not pride. Something closer to recognition. The audience didn't clap. They didn't shout. They didn't need to. Everyone in that room, and everyone watching at home, knew they had just witnessed something that couldn't be undone. Jennifer Lopez didn't just walk off the view. She walked out with her dignity and left Joy Behar sitting in the silence she'd spent years avoiding. And that's how Jennifer Lopez turned a talk show ambush into a masterclass on self-respect. She didn't shout. She didn't beg. She simply stood her ground and reminded millions watching that strength doesn't need permission. What do you think? Did Jennifer go too far, or was she right to defend herself? Drop your thoughts below. I read every comment. Don't forget to subscribe for more real, unfiltered Hollywood moments where the truth hits harder than the script.